Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. I got an email from Preston Brown, subject line quadruple solar flare. And here it is right here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so it's kind of like almost like a pyramid shape or a diamond shape right here. Right here, if you can see my mouse, right here, and right here. A quadruple solar flare. Now, this stuck out to me because I have a spreadsheet for the sun. The sun has been really active, one, because they think that it may be in solar maximum right now, but there's also a lot of crazy, strange things that are happening with the sun. I think possibly outside of just solar maximum, and I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. In the email, Jared, as always, thanks for your heart, your soul, your testimony, and your time that you put into this. No problem. Continuing, it seems you always know about everything that's going on, so I hesitate to add to your massive amount of emails, but this is awesome. And then he gives a link for an article talking about the quadruple flare. And yes, thank you. I do have a lot of emails. As you can see right here, I have 2,684 unopened emails. And I go through the emails and I can't respond to all of them. Some of them I just have to go through quickly and delete. I wish I could respond to every single one, but I have to go through because I'm trying to find stuff to share with the channel and my audience. And it's like sometimes finding a needle in a haystack, but I try and go through, and even the way that I do it, I can't keep on top of all the emails. So 2,684 unopened, and then a total of 3,781. It's hard. So please don't be offended, anybody, if I don't get your email. It's just, I'm human and I have limitations. But thank you, Preston, for sending this, because I wouldn't have known. This is how I know when things happen, is because people send me emails. So it's, all right, continuing. A quadruple solar flare from the sun. Isn't 4 a symbolic number for Earth? That's some interesting symbolism right there. Yeah, a lot of times 4 is associated with the Earth because in the scriptures it talks about the 4, corners of the Earth, or the 4 directions. There's also the symbolism of the square and the circle. A square has 4 sides, it has 4 angles, and it kind of represents this imperfect world that's kind of pixelated in a way compared to the transcendent, spiritual world, the metaphysical, the more, abstract, like a circle. Yeah. So 4, yes. And then he continues, I love how they refer to it as super sympathetic. Makes me think of the sun, S-O-N, right there. Also, #flood. Shared another Book of Mormon today. Thanks for the inspiration. Smiley face without a nose. I love to be part of this community that you created, where we come together in a like-minded, spirit-filled way to edify, uplift, and come closer to the Savior as he comes closer to us. Yes, well, thanks for participating and watching the channel. Thank you for sharing the Book of Mormon. I'm sorry, everyone. I haven't updated this for a few days. That also takes a lot of time, but I'm going to do it this week. So the last time I updated it, we're at 8,728 copies of the Book of Mormon. I'll bet once I update it, we'll probably have crossed over to, or maybe be really close to 9,000, and we're trying to get to 10,000. And then I wouldn't be surprised if we have met the goal already of 1,000 people that have joined this challenge. So after that, we'll set new goals, but we're getting really close to the first set of goals. And just, if you haven't already, please share copies of the Book of Mormon, whether you participate in this challenge or not. This is meant to be a motivator tool. Once you do, let me know. Send me an email or put something in the comments. Let me know how many copies you shared, and make sure to include #flood. So, okay. So thank you, Preston, for the email. I wouldn't have known about this if it wasn't for your email. And let's do a quick review before we jump into that story. Here is my spreadsheet. It's called Signs Sun. Okay, I have all these signs spreadsheets for disasters in general, derechos, eclipses, earthquakes, hurricanes, lightning, so on and so forth. So this one is for the sun. And if you want to see the visuals for everything I'm about to share, watch this video right here from 2 months ago called Extremely Rare Event on the Sun. It's 36 minutes, but it goes over pretty much everything to this point, except for what we're going to cover in this video. It shows all the visuals, all like the video and pictures of all these things I'm about to go over. I'll put a link for this video in the description box below. Okay, so first, you'll notice that like I have a bunch of entries for coronal holes. This is something that happens pretty frequently. Sometimes an article will come out and be like, oh, there's a massive coronal hole, 50 Earths wide. And from what I can tell, that's not really out of the ordinary per se. I keep track of it, but just to show in the future, like, yeah, there's a story, but it's not like that's like really, really rare or anything like that. But then the 5th of September, 2022, Sun produces an explosion, CME, coronal mass ejection, so large that, quote, it will be studied for years, end quote. Then another quote, I can safely say the September 5th event is one of the largest, if not the largest, solar energetic particle or SEP storms that we have seen so far since Solar Orbiter launched in 2020, according to George Ho, a space physicist at Johns Hopkins University. So a huge explosion. December of 2022, Sun emits a burst of high-speed solar wind, sweeping away a region of the regular solar wind around Mars, leaving a void in its wake. The planet's atmosphere swelled by thousands of kilometers as a result. Each solar storm is different, but this one is extra different, said Shannon Curry, principal investigator of the MAVEN mission in a briefing. Okay, February 2nd, 2023, enormous and unprecedented. This has never happened before. Enormous and unprecedented vortex spotted around the sun's north pole. Scientists can't explain it. And some people in the comments had suggested that it looked like a crown on the sun. So, okay, next, March 18th of last year, enormous solar tornado the size of 14 stacked Earths forms on sun's north pole. Space weather enthusiasts claim to have never seen one as colossal as this one. March 20th, oh, that's another coronal hole. June of last year, the sun produced over 160 sunspots in June, the highest monthly number for a single month since September 2002. July 15th, initially peak activity for solar cycle 25 was forecast to begin in July 2025. Now, experts believe the cycle peak is more likely to take place in mid to late 2024. So, you know, the timetable has been pushed up, it seems. I don't know if there's like a parallel between that and the hastening of the work, but that's something to think about. November 2nd, a large magnetic filament eruption from the sun resulted in a vast, quote unquote, canyon of fire of at least double the width of the United States. Was carved into the sun's southern atmosphere. And that's a pretty stunning image. Well, actually, it's a video. Again, watch it in this video right here. Okay, November 13th, a paper was published on that day. Scientists have spotted a stunning aurora-like display of crackling radio waves over the surface of the sun that is strikingly similar to the northern lights on Earth. Scientists have detected aurora-like radio signals from distant stars in the past, but this is the first time they've seen a signal of this kind from our own sun. So that's kind of weird. I don't know if that was like something to do with like an improvement in technology or a different method or something like that, but this is the first time that they've seen an aurora or at least like detected an aurora-like radio signal from the sun. Interesting. The 5th of December, okay, that's another, okay, but this one's different. Large coronal hole wider than 60 Earths. This is unprecedented at this stage of the solar cycle, according to scientists. So that's what makes this one unique. It took shape near the sun's equator, whereas they are typically located near the sun's poles during this stage of the solar cycle and not near the equator. And then we started having some XClass flares, December 31st, interestingly, New Year's Eve. Before that, on the 14th of December, an X2.8 solar flare, the largest since the 10th of September, 2017. This was also one of the largest solar radio events ever recorded. Okay, one of the largest solar radio events ever recorded. And then on the 31st, an X5 solar flare, the largest since the 10th of September 2017. So this one outdid this one. And there's something kind of interesting about that. I have this spreadsheet called Signs Solar Flares All. I get this data from spaceweatherlive.com, where they put like the top 50 solar flares for each solar cycle. So it doesn't have all solar flares, just the top 50. I don't know if there's somewhere that has like a master list, but we noticed that these solar cycles, or like these peaks at least, they're supposed to be about 11 years apart. That's like how long a solar cycle is. But the last time there was this large of X-class flares, it was right in the last part of President Monson's presidency, September of 2017. So he would pass away just a few months later. And you have these large X-class flares that were going off just a few months before President Nelson became president of the church. And then things died down. And I think that's because of the solar cycle. But anyway, things die down. You don't have anything really that of note that's noteworthy for these years. Nothing that made the top 50 from 2018 to 2020. And then it starts to kind of pick back up. And now here we are today. And this is the most updated information that I have. So again, they think that we are possibly in solar maximum right now. But what's interesting is that it coincides with these two presidencies, President Monson's and President Nelson's presidency. It's like the sun is in sync with their presidencies. Also with President Hinckley, because like, look at this gap right here. Again, it's not that there weren't any solar flares or X-class flares in these years. They just weren't in the top 50. So nothing of note from 2007 to 2010. So the last few years of President Hinckley's presidency, and then it starts to pick up with President Monson. So it's kind of weird, right? Isn't that kind of weird that the sun, S-O-N, is in sync with these presidencies, presidents of the church? Weird. Okay, now let's go back to this. This brings us to current January 22nd of this year. There was a sympathetic solar flare. Sympathetic solar flare. There is a simultaneous eruption of two solar flares from two different sunspots on opposite sides of the sun. Extremely rare. Okay, that brings us to this story about the quadruple sympathetic flare. So instead of two, like the one that we just read, this one had four that went off at the same time. We're going to go to Live Science. This is a different article, but I sometimes I'll check out other articles depending on like what they have. Sometimes different articles have better information. So this is Live Science. 4 solar flares simultaneously erupt from the sun in rare super explosion, and Earth could be hit by the fallout. All right. An exceptionally rare, I should have highlighted that, an exceptionally rare quadruple solar flare just exploded. Why is that not highlighting? Sorry. Sometimes I miss stuff as I'm preparing. Just exploded from 4 different points across the sun's surface at almost the exact same time. The components of this interconnected explosive tetrad may have also launched a solar storm toward Earth, which could potentially slam into our planet in the coming days. The 4-part eruption began at around 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesday, April 23rd. So I'm recording this on the 23rd. So for me, it's today. For you, it was yesterday. But you know what the 23rd is? Especially in light of the recent video that I did about the Jewish holidays. The 23rd this year is the first day of Passover, or Pesach. So Passover started at sundown on Monday, but like what you would consider like the main part of the day is on the 23rd. So the first day of Pesach, you have this really rare quadruple tetrad solar flare, sympathetic solar flare is what they're called. So that's kind of interesting. Let's get back to the article. The concurrent blasts were part of a single eruption known as a sympathetic solar flare. This type of solar outburst happens when sunspots or filaments are invisibly linked by massive magnetic field loops that arch above the solar surface. When one detonates, the others quickly follow suit. In almost all, pay attention to this, in almost all reported cases of such events, sympathetic flares include just 2 linked flares, which can range in intensity from small outbursts to X-class flares. The most powerful class of solar flares the sun can produce. Those are X-class flares. However, in this case, there were twice as many flares as usual, which makes this a super sympathetic flare, according to spaceweather.com. It is currently unclear what the combined power of the blast was. Now, if you go to spaceweather.com, they're giving it an estimate of M3.6, so like M-class flares. So these aren't, according to this, unless something changes, it doesn't seem that these were X-class flares, but it is unusual that you had 4 at the same time. Okay, but given the large area covered by the sunspots, there is a decent chance that at least some of the debris will be Earth-directed, spaceweather.com reported. This debris would most likely be a massive cloud of plasma and radiation launched by one of the flares, known as a coronal mass ejection, or CME. If confirmed, a CME could crash into our planet in the next few days and trigger vibrant auroras near its magnetic poles. In case you don't really follow this kind of stuff, CMEs are common. There's nothing nothing big is going to happen to Earth, unless it's some extraordinary event. But it doesn't seem like that's the case with this. This is at least the third sympathetic solar flare of 2024, following a pair of explosions in January and an X-class flare duo in March. Now, I had missed this story, and I'm sorry if anybody sent this to me, but I didn't catch this. So there was something that happened in March. So, okay, so here, this is what we have. So my most recent entry, the one that we just covered, it just happened today, April 23rd, the first day of Passover. But back in March, on the 23rd, which is kind of interesting because that was just 2 days before the Kirtland Temple reopened under the ownership of the church, there was an extremely rare double X-class sympathetic solar flare. So you had the sympathetic solar flare back in January, and then you had an even more extreme sympathetic solar flare because it was a double X-class solar flare. Now, an even more rare and possibly extreme, I guess, depending on how you look at it, quadruple sympathetic solar flare. So it's like the intensity increases. It's like boom, boom, boom. That's the way that I look at this. And then I don't know. It's just okay. So let's take a look at that really quick. Here's the double X-class flares. So you have this right here, and then the one down here. These were 2 X-class solar flares, a sympathetic flare together. This is also from Live Science. Earth hit by radiation from rare double X-class solar flare, triggering most powerful geomagnetic storm in 6 years. So this was notable. The sun has just bombarded Earth with the most powerful geomagnetic storm our planet has seen in more than 6 years. That's interesting because that takes us to the beginning of President Nelson's presidency. So maybe this is another bridge, or what I've called before a bookend, where you have something happening toward the beginning of his presidency and then something that's happened more recently that match or correspond. The massive storm occurred after an eruption from an extremely rare double X-class flare, disturbed Earth's magnetic field, lighting up the skies across the globe with vibrant auroras and other luminous phenomena. On Saturday, March 23rd, just 2 days before the Kirtland Temple reopened, the sun unleashed a 1.1 magnitude X solar flare, the most powerful type of explosion the sun can produce. This blast was unusual because it was made up of 2 simultaneous explosions known as a sympathetic solar flare, ejected by a pair of sunspots, AR3614 and AR3615, separated by hundreds of thousands of miles, spaceweather.com reported. The unusual nature of this solar explosion and intensity of the resulting geomagnetic storm are both clear indicators that the sun is nearing solar maximum. So, and then some experts believe the sun may have already entered this explosive phase around a year earlier than initial forecasts predicted. But scientists won't know exactly when this period started until months after the sun eventually begins to calm down. And isn't that an interesting thing to think about? If like these solar cycles, if they correspond with like presidents of the church, of course they wouldn't correspond with each one because, for example, President Hunter was only president of the church for less than a year. But toward the end here, with President Hinckley, President Monson, and now President Nelson, it seems like they're kind of like synced together. And if this is like a type of foreshadowing or something that is like a metaphor for the second coming, I feel like that's a pretty good description. It's, another metaphor for the second coming is a woman that's pregnant and about to give birth, and you don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but you know that it's close. I feel like you see the same thing with these solar cycles and this one right here. So this is like a form of maybe contractions of solar maximum. Do you get what I'm saying? I have this spreadsheet of all these like really rare events, things that haven't happened before, the biggest of this type and the largest of that, and we've never seen this before, and this is really notable, so maybe we could look at these kind of as like contractions. I don't know. Only time will tell. Just like how they won't really know until months go by, it's probably going to be the same as the second coming. When we look back and be like, oh, that's how Adam on Diamond happened. It was through the 2020 General Conference. That was the part that we participated in, not being any the wiser. And, oh, that's what this meant, and that's what this prophecy looked like, and now here we are. It may be something like that. Okay, was there anything else from this one? The solar maximum, the solar maximum coincides with the upcoming total solar eclipse on April 8th. Now that's the eclipse that I documented. If you haven't seen it, just go back to April 8th. I did live streams, and I did a live stream of the eclipse. And I also did like a sideways like landscape video of the eclipse because the live stream was up and down. So you can watch either version, but it was a really incredible event. Again, for the church to purchase the Kirtland Temple a month before the eclipse, where the path of totality went over the Kirtland Temple, that is just truly stunning. And the eclipse took place the day after conference. And President Nelson's talk, the theme of his talk was priesthood keys and the history of the Kirtland Temple, among other things. So does it really surprise you that solar maximum seems to have coincided with that event? And I don't think that we fully understand what took place with this last conference and with the eclipse and the importance of the Kirtland Temple coming back into the church. I think it's maybe more significant than what we realize right now. So anyway, so there's that. I think that's pretty much it. So you guys, the sun just, it keeps doing things. It keeps doing really rare things. It's been very, very, very active. It's happening at a very, very interesting time. And here's the most recent event on the first day of Passover. Go figure. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.